Hey there everyone, Paolo here, and welcome back. Today, I have another longer video for you guys. I've been trying to get away from these, but I have 30 minutes of what I feel is decent Star Citizen footage, so I'm going to take a second look at what I played earlier. So, since I dove back into Star Citizen, I hadn't played it for 6 or 8 months, checked the updates on it for 6 or 8 months. In the last 3 days, no, 4 days. So it went up Sunday, I tried, and then Thursday, 4 days, yeah. There have been 2 different patches. What they're doing on the PTU is they're very regularly rolling out small performance patches. One day they put out a little performance, it wasn't a performance patch, but it was actually like a debug system into the software, caused all kinds of problems, but gave them feedback. The next day they removed that, they implemented some of the changes they found, and just in the 4 days from Sunday through Thursday, the performance of the game on the servers improved notably. Still relatively low frame rate, but I'd have no problem with that. I don't expect a high frame rate. Not from a game that looks this good on my 770 this early in development. They're a year from performance passes on the game to optimize the performance. But in terms of stability, being able to stay online, not getting disconnected, not having the crashes, a lot of that has improved vastly in just the 4 days. So I was able to get on last night and played for a little over 30 minutes. In that 30 minutes, I made it to 3 different space stations. I found a Marine assault rifle. I killed a guy. We'll get to that at the end of the video. And just had a generally really good time. And just the improvements made in those few days really shocked me at how much they did. Some of it was also just me learning. Some of it was, right now you're seeing me actually figured out how to warp. For those of you that don't know, so once you're in your ship, the ships now have 3 different speed limits, kind of. You have your standard thrusters, which are going to get you a certain amount. This is like your combat speed, we'll call it. There's then an accelerated version, which is accessed by pressing V, I believe it was, which kind of, it doesn't go warp, but it's kind of like a, let's say, inter-system travel speed. So you have combat speed, inter-system travel speed, and then you have warp speed. So combat's just normal W and S to increase and decrease speed. You press V to then go up to this inter-system speed. You can then hit, I think it was B or N, I think it's B, to open up this navigation window, where then you look at one of the locations and you press the middle mouse button, where you then activate a warp speed, which is what you saw right there, travel that distance very, very quickly. Once I figured this out, it made the game notably easier, as I could get to things in under 30 minutes to an hour. So we're now at this space station here. Now this station, I have no idea what it is. I saw it on my screen, it was like a security outpost or something. And I had read in the forums that there is some location where there is ground PvP or infantry, I don't know what you would, Space Marine PvP going on. And I thought, you know, security station, that sounds like maybe where it would be. So I flew out there to that to find that nobody was there. It took me the longest time to figure out how to land. The landing was a little awkward. At first I thought it was going to be automated, so by again opening up by hitting N, I think this time, it brought up landing options. And once I was close enough to the station here, we should see it in a moment, it's going to highlight the landing pad areas. And the landing pad areas are kind of in an awkward place here, where you have to come in under what I'm going to call the gravity ring. And it's very narrow. And at first, I thought it was going to automatically land me. I know in like Elite Dangerous it does this. and as such, I activated it and just took my hands off the controls, and I almost crashed because of this. And then finally, right before I flew into everything, I'm like, wait a minute, I think they want me to do this. And I took manual control back, and I managed to land my first time without any major problems. While this is going on, let's see, what do I want to talk about first? So the first thing I was getting into a little bit as we were coming over here to there was the different speed travels. And each different speed, your vehicle controls slightly different, your ship. The normal speed, your craft are quite maneuverable, at least this 300i is. I can spin this thing around on a donut. It's very, very maneuverable. When you go up to what I'm calling that inter-system speed, you lose quite a bit of that. It feels far more like flying a tractor trailer, where things kind of slowly turn. You have to kind of pull your ship around and everything. This speed, I'm not sure how much of a use there's going to be for it. It could perhaps be used, like, if you're caught in an interdiction field or something, to put distance between you and your chaser and or pursuer, try to get away from them enough that you can get back up to warp. Maybe that, I have to see how the game plays out a little bit more. The warp travel, I'm not sure how I feel about this. So this was something that I was going to bring up in probably a later video. And it's a sense of scale or distance. And considering we only have this one small part of the game to play with, it's way too early to really get this. But I think there's an interesting concept here of ease of accessibility and then distance that makes the game seem large. It adds depth to it. And what I'm getting to here, and we finally managed to land, and what I'm doing here is I'm watching that center circle in the middle of my screen, and I assumed that large blue square area was where I wanted to be, and turned out, yep, that was the case. Once I got over there, I managed to come down and managed to get out of the ship. Back on topic, what I was saying. So, in some space simulator games, and I'm not talking Star Citizen, I'm just saying in general, in a lot of them, actually, you have this advanced warp technology of some sort, either through warp gates like EVE Online. You also saw this kind of in Mass Effect, though that's an entirely different genre. I understand that was a bad example. Even the X series. What happens is you have this extremely large galaxy, but you can literally get from one end of it to the other end of it very quick, because you have some type of warp drive, faster than light, super speed that allows you to cross the galaxy in real quick intervals. This is great in terms of single player campaigns, I think. In terms of smaller games where you're playing by yourself, and what's the point in making a player take an hour and a half to fly from point A to point B when they're just going from point A to point B? My concern with having this warp drive here in Star Citizen is it could cause some of this. And there's a whole lot of unknowns. I'll admit I'm not fully educated on this, and they might have already thought all this out. We're now inside the space station. Figured out how to turn my headlamp on. Turns out there's nobody here, at least nobody that I found. I ran around for a few minutes, didn't find anybody. Eventually, as I was about to leave, which should be here in a sec, I didn't run around all that long, but I figured if somebody was in here, I would have been shot already. So, you know, it is a hostile environment, I assume. So, yep, no one shot at me. I ran around for a few seconds, didn't hear any shooting. Anybody else running around? Figured there was nobody here. Considering there were no ships on the landing pads, probably a safe bet. And then as soon as I go to leave, I just happened to notice on this wall here, come on video, catch up to where I'm talking, any second now. Well, I'll give it away. I notice guns on the wall. And just out of pure chance, I'm like, I wonder if I can pick one of them up. Turns out you can pick one of them up. So all of a sudden, I'm a crazy armed man now in space. Here we go. Yeah, get the gun. And it's like an M4, you know, space M4. It seems to be firing projectile cartridges and everything. It's not a laser beam or anything. Most of the environment does not seem to be destructible. I tried shooting a few signs and stuff. None of that seemed to be destructible. Though obviously we do know the ship destruction is very much in there. I didn't try shooting my own ship. I'll think about that next time. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and get back on the ship. What I was talking about earlier, so size and distance. In a single player game, having the ability to close these distances very quickly, just for the pacing of the game, can be a very good thing. In multiplayer, it could also be that, unless you're trying to do something where you're trying to create a living universe. And what I'm getting at here is, if I can get, let's say I can get from, you know, Olisar space station to the other end of the known galaxy in under 10 minutes, why does, what, that makes the galaxy smaller, doesn't it? It limits what can actually be done within that game. When you can cross such large swaths of distance in such a short time, there's no real reason to even have it be that large, other than if you're going to fill it with a lot of small objects. When you start crossing that distance very quickly, you, in essence, reduce the size of the galaxy. So my concern with having these three different warp speeds and having this warp speed is, if at some point I'm able to fly from one end to other end in a short amount of time, it could be a problem. I don't know if I'm explaining this correctly at all. What I see happening is, You know, this game is going to be built, at least on the primary server, around PvP type elements. And say you're planning this big old heist of some sort against another corporation, another set of players, and you do something to draw them way off to the other end of the galaxy. And you do this. And while that's going on, you have a second prawn that as soon as they're warped away, you come in behind them and attack some other objective. You use a feint maneuver, essentially. Well, if they're able to stop, turn around, and get all the way back to their other place in 5 or 10 minutes, it limits what you can really do there. It artificially reduces the size of the galaxy is what I'm worried about. Is that going to be what happens? I have no idea. What we're looking at here could maybe be 1% of the map, where I'm spending 45 seconds here in warp, not even that. You know, in reality, warping from one end to the other end could take 3 hours. Would that be fun? Probably not. It wouldn't be fun to take 3 hours to warp from one end to the other end. Maybe even 5 hours. But I think the added depth elements that it would bring in terms of creating sections of space that are notable and real and yours, would be a good thing. And I just hope this is something they took into account in developing the game and what they took into account when creating this warp system. The other thing is I can only warp, at least that I could figure out, to objects that I knew. When I pressed the B menu and brought up all those points, that was the only way I could figure out how to warp. I could not just like point my ship off into empty space and warp for a minute and then stop. It was only predetermined targets. This station here, we showed up. I could not target, like I tried to do landing and there were no landing pads that showed up and they just kept messaging me telling me it was shut down. So I flew around for a few seconds and then flew away. So yeah, that's my one concern that I came out of this game with, is that time and distance, travel time overall. What else did I have problems with? Not really problems. None of this is problems. It's just things I want to see how they play out. And you know, even if they do make it that you can cross the universe in 3 minutes, doesn't mean I'm not going to play the game. It doesn't mean I'm not going to enjoy it. It just means it's going to be a different game than what I was expecting. A lot of people are going to look at this and they're going to see Elite Dangerous and then they're going to see the X series and they're like, well, what's the difference between this and those games? And while I don't have a definitive 100% answer, what I think it's going to be is immersion. It's the best way I can describe what I've experienced, what I've seen. Here, I'm just going back to the main space base, Olisar. I gotta admit, I had ill intentions here. I wanted to see if my rifle that I now had, if I could go into the center room there where everyone's spawning their ships and just kill everybody. I wanted to see what would happen if I could do that. I'll let you guys watch and see what happens. What was I saying? Having that warp speed wouldn't remove me from the game at all, but it oh no, I was talking about immersion, sorry. I haven't played Elite Dangerous. I plan on picking it up once they put out the Horizons DLC for it, and it's one bundle pack. I'll try it. But in that game, I see like everything's accessed via escape menus or tab type menus for the most part. You do look around your ship and you click on this or that in order to bring things up. But I don't see players, at least I haven't seen players out walking around space stations. I don't see players, you know, engaging in boarding parties or anything like that. The game doesn't seem to have that extra level of immersion. It might at some point. You know, they're releasing large expansions for that game, apparently once a year they're aiming for. But what I see right now is a far less immersive game. While I was playing this last night, even though it was only like 35 minutes long, I was amazingly immersed. The immersion got broken a little bit trying to figure out the controls here and there, but that'll come with time, that'll come with experience. But just being there, it felt like I was a teenager again with my first car, just out for that. Like, I had no reason to be driving around or flying around, but I was, and it was fun for that reason. And that's a tough thing for a game to pull off. And I'm not even the type of person that normally gets immersed in games like this. I don't dive into the role-playing elements or anything like that, but for a game to completely pull me in, especially a game in this rough alpha state as it was impressive. When I closed this down at the end of the night, I was like, wow. I wanted to continue playing, but it was almost midnight. And I'm like, yeah, I gotta get some sleep. And that says something. So, yeah, we're finally landing. Here, I think this is going to show one of the first things where in the other video, I talked quite a bit about janky. Things are still a little janky in this alpha version. And again, not criticizing it for that, just pointing it out. This might or might not do it where I just fall out of the ship. Let's see what happens here. These are real professional videos there, Paller. Come on. Am I going to just fall through the floor? Hint, warning, there's a point where I try to get out of my ship and I just fall through the floor. No, this is not one of the times. All right. In the future, there'll be a few times where I try to exit my ship and you go through the seat animation and then I just end up outside the ship. Like, I went through the base of the ship like, oh, well, that was interesting. Is it a big problem? No. Right here, I'm just looking around. I'm like, I don't have my gun. I can't shoot anybody, so I realize I'm not going to be able to go inside and shoot people. So I split the video there. That was where my recording point was. We're now back up. I just took back off, and we're flying back out to the space truck stop here. Let's see. A few other elements. There will be a little bit of dogfighting coming up here in a bit, and I might as well start talking about it now, as this is something I do want to talk about a little bit more. The dogfighting, this is something that in time might become better, but what I've noticed is it's very tough to judge closing speed and distance from target. And you'll see, I'm not very good at dogfighting, and I don't claim that this isn't the problem with it, but when you have two very small specs, you and your opponent's ship, in this large open area of space, it's very difficult to judge how quickly you are approaching each other. And as such, a lot of my combat was me shooting 2 or 3 times at a target as we come flying in at each other, and then colliding. And bounce off, and our shields get all angry, circle around, come flying back in each other, shoot it 2 or 3 more times, and then collide. And I wasn't trying to do this. The more I played, the more I tried to avoid the collisions. But it was very, very tough to judge. Like, I couldn't tell on my HUD my closing speed or distance. There was no real indication of distance from target. There is a hotkey, I want to say it's M, that is supposed to match speeds. But match speed only really works if you're tailing the target, following them. When you're closing or on an intercept course, doesn't really help much. In time, I think knowing like the size of the enemy ship, like if I look at a ship and I know, okay, that's a Hornet, it's roughly this size, and since it's a P size, it must be about 3 kilometers away compared to it's only like 150 feet away, would help. I just wish there was something on the hood, and maybe there is a hood option I just haven't figured out, that would let me see closing distance and speed. Give me a little bit more information on that. A target lead would also help a little bit, but that might not be what they're looking for. I do think in this point of space history or futuristic space, something like that would be in use, but who knows. That station right there was just, apparently it's like a repair and refueling shop. Since my ship is not damaged at all, I just circled around and flew off. We're now going to go out here to a relay beacon. And this is where you're going to see the first little bit of my terrible space combat. I promise to work on it later going forward. But this is where you'll see, you know, how I have that issue with the collision, and I'm trying to avoid it. I hope this also kind of illustrates a little bit, like in the last 20 minutes, we hit 4 different, we went out to the security station, we went to that closed port, we went back to Olistar, we went to the truck stop, and now we're at this beacon. Each one of these is 150 to 300,000 kilometers apart from each other, and we hit each one of them in 25 minutes, less than that, 20 minutes. That's where my concern with the distance and time and warp speed comes in. But here we go. We're coming in. Now we can see some people shooting. Once my electronics pick up, those are some friendlies, and there are some enemies. And we'll let that play out. What else did I see and interact? Ooh. Voice comms. Perhaps this is something they plan on putting in. Again, I haven't been super keeping up with it. To me, this game really would benefit from a built-in VoIP system that would work in several different ways. You would be able to, say, target a ship and do like a close beam where just that ship could hear you, voice chat between them. It would also benefit from a general like fleet chat. It would also work for like a local broadcast chat. Is this something that they're planning on doing? Possibly. I have no idea. Is it something that they maybe can't do? Possibly. I have no idea. I'm just saying something like that would work very, very well within this game. You know, for a game that is trying to be as immersive as this, and there we go, I flew into a ship. It's hard to tell closing speed, or closing speed. But for a game that's trying to be this immersive, text chat, typing out, while in certain elements would work, isn't going to be that. It's going to be a little less immersive than, you know, something at this point you would be sending audio broadcasts, if not audio and video broadcasts, between ships. Something I want to keep an eye on. I do like the red out and blackout effect. At some point right here soon, I'm actually going to pass out. I didn't know you could do this. Last time I played Arena Commander, I don't think this was installed. I think I could pull full turns in this thing without any problem at max speed. It's hard to say. It's, like I said, it's been a long time. And here we go. We're going to fly into a guy again. Yep, there we go. We're spinning up in circles. It's cool. It's cool. It's practice. We'll make this up. And I think that's going to be probably one of the biggest things for people when they start first diving on the PTU 2.0. Unless you spend a lot of times in Arena Commander, there's a big learning curve going out. I spent a good 15 minutes just looking at the keyboard mapping, trying to get an idea what it was. In fact, I'm probably going to print out a large version of it and just put it on the wall behind my computer so I have quick access without going into the menu system. There we go. I was passed out for a little bit, and now we're back up. And somebody else is gonna get this kill, I think. Yeah. So I killed one ship that was sitting still, and that was all I did. Other than that, I flew into a ship once or twice. I'm Ace. You can call me Maverick. Now, this video, I don't know. Hopefully, it didn't come across as overly negative, because the experience I had last night, it was terrific. It was a great experience. If we could have that same experience with 2 or 3 friends working together, if there's like a fleeting up ability, or not fleeting up ability, but able to create fleets and all that to track each other within game later on, that would be great. From understanding, that is a big problem with Elite Dangerous. It's hard to coordinate with other ships and stay together. Hopefully Chris Robertson, that's not something I would expect in early alpha. Let me be very clear. Not something I would expect in this version, but something later on down the line seems would be very needed. So at this point here, this comm relay or whatever the heck it was shut down. So I'm going to go ahead and I have to exit my ship. And a lot of this is going to look straight out of if you saw the Star Citizen StarCon video. They did very much the same thing here. They brought a Constellation and I think a Hornet out. Obviously, I'm with 300i. I'm also going to apologize right now. So, well, we'll let this play out and I'll then apologize once you see and understand. So there we go. I just fell through the bottom of my ship. We can also see my ship's not in the best of shape. My right wing is missing. That right gun probably should have been gone. Yep. I do have my primary weapon, which fires in space. We kind of learned that earlier. And yeah, so that's kind of cool, right? Got a gun and coming out. And right here, I don't know who this guy is. I don't know if he's dead. Well, if I can get inside the point. Yep, I don't know if he's dead or not. Is he friendly? I have no idea. Who is he? Couldn't tell you. Some guy. A little hood icon where I could see that guy's name above his head would be nice, but that might break some people's immersion, and so I shoot him. Why did I shoot him? I have no idea. I kind of just wanted to see if I could. I wanted to see if there was fire and I could kill the guy. I then had no idea how to apologize to the guy. So, I spent the next few minutes floating around trying to figure out how to turn this station back on, but also trying to figure out how to open the chat window. I still don't know how to open the chat window. I know there's a chat window in game, but I was trying to open the chat window to apologize to the guy and tell him, look, I'm sorry. I didn't know if I was going to kill you or not. It was obviously, I did it on purpose, but more just out of curiosity to see what would happen if I did it than any ill or mean intentions. Odds are I just created a war with some guy that's in a group with like 900 other Star Citizen players, and I'm never going to be able to play the game or have to name change because I probably just, I just created the first intergalactic war within Star Citizen. I found it fun. And now at this point, it's basically done. Just got to get back out to my ship and fly away. This shows everything that I went through. From here on, I just fly back to Olistar to see if I can get my ship repaired. When I land, nothing happened. We do see his Hornet somewhere here, the other player's Hornet. There is his Hornet. And then my ship was back around on the other side of the station. Yeah, so he was just somebody that came out here to try and fix this relay, and I killed him with a machine gun. I like it. I like it a lot. Yeah, might as well cut the video short. We don't need to watch me fly back and just watch the ship not get repaired. Going forward, I'm really considering doing more videos on Star Citizen, and I'd love to hear from people what they think, what they would be interested in seeing. While I would never dedicate my channel just to this game, mainly just because I enjoy playing too many other games beyond this, and I'm not sure how much there is to dedicate to in this early version of the game. You know, obviously if the game was complete with full content, yeah, maybe you could make just that, but I prefer playing too many different games. In the current build, I think you would run out of things to cover very quickly, so yeah, not going to do that. But I would like to, you know, maybe every once a month do a video on it, the current updates of it and everything. I also still kind of want to talk about all the different elements of this game. There's a lot to talk about there, from design decisions and design concepts, like I talked about earlier with the distance and time and how quickly you can cross the galaxy, to them making and still selling ships, to the crowdfunding concept of it, the Derek Smart nonsense. There's so much to talk about there, and I think each individual subject, at least many of those individual subjects, could be a video on their own. Trying to do them, you know, trying to do 5 or 10 of them in a 10-minute video doesn't do any one part of that subject justice. You end up just going far too narrow and glossing over too much stuff. It's something I'm considering about. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. For now, whenever I do play and I pick up and see something new, I'll try to record it, and maybe I'll do another compilation video where I just highlight little elements that I found and learned going forward. But I think that about covers it. Until next time, though, this has been Paler. Thanks for watching.